Hello, everyone. Jess Claire here. I'm here with the incredible Andrea Powles-Gullick. Did I say that right?
You did indeed.
I did.
Well done.
Yeah. Did. Yep. Known as Andrea Marie on Facebook, as I've seen.
Yes. So my alter ego.
No, Andrea Marie. It's the case of use my first and middle name, so I don't use my last name. People can't find me while I'm looking for a job. That kind of thing.
Well, mine was a little bit different, but we won't go into that just yet. Mine was probably okay. Certain people couldn't find me.
Yeah, exactly. Somehow not being found. It's funny what we use Facebook for. If you are jumping on, please do say hello. I would love you to make yourself known. I can't always see comments. I'm trying to bring them all up here, but yeah, I just absolutely love to engage with you on this topic. I met Andrea through LinkedIn, and I think Andrea's got one of the most moving stories, and I would love to share it with you. But ultimately, every time I do this show, hello, Holly, thank you for joining in. When I do this show, hello, Facebook user, if you let me know who you are so I can actually identify you, because some people don't like the details being put on here. But Andrea's story is one of the most moving stories. Just such a moving story, and I'd love to share it with her. But what I do is always ask what the biggest problem in the world is. And before we get into that, Andrea, why don't you introduce yourself, who you are, what you do. Hello, Naomi. Hey, Jen, and how you ended up on human business.
Okay, so I am obviously Andrea, and I'm the founder of Soulful Living with Andrea, and I'm a Transformational Courage Coach. So it's all a bit of a mouthful. So to just cut into it, I really help women in particular, like we're about to delve into, come home to themselves. So people in the midst of an identity crisis, I think that women in particular are kind of guided or sort of instructed to wear a lot of hats, and sometimes those hats get so heavy that they kind of lose themselves in underneath there. So I help them to find themselves and have the confidence to really break through those identity crises and create the life that they want. And my path has kind of sort of not diverted, but just sort of expanded, I guess. And I do a lot of inner child work, so connecting back into who we were as children and who we were taught to be, so that we can actually kind of shed those layers, because they're a little bit suffocating, or not a little bit suffocating, they're awfully suffocating. And I guess for me, the way that I found myself here doing this, holding space for people and helping them transform, was through numerous traumas myself. So even traumas can give you the next hat to wear, whether that's widow or divorcee or however it comes for people. So just being able to find who I am and my true self after experiencing a few different things that were quite painful. So I know that on the other side of agony and heartbreak can be absolute just sheer happiness and contentment again. So I like to be able to guide people in how to get there for themselves.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And we are going to go into a little bit of that. Again, if you are jumping on, please do say hello and engage in this conversation. What do you think about in identity crisis? Do you even know what that means? Is an identity crisis even real? I'm very curious about this. So we're going to discuss this, but in particular, hello, Kirsty, wearing my cooking dinner hat. Look forward to watching the replay when dinner is served. Thanks, Kirsty. Where do we begin? So I think I want to begin with what we created as the intention for this. So this is really about looking at identity crisis. When I asked Andrea what was the biggest problem in the world, I mean, she was like, there's lots of problems, but if I have to kind of put it down to one, it would be being told who you are. That's what you said, like being told who you are. And I was like, okay, I'm really interested about this. Does anyone ever experience being told who you are? anyone, and tell me what you meant by that, Andrea, when you were like, if I have to boil this down to one problem, because I do force people to do that. So thanks for that.
No, that's fine. I think it's just that, there's so many social constructions and there's so many family obligations, and that being told who we are, I mean, that can stretch back much further than it coming from our parents, that whole generational woundings that we carry, and we show up and feel kind of lost with who we are, and we don't realize that's because it's come down from generation to generation of what the role of the woman is and what the role of the man is, and what treatment we can expect and what job and where is our glass ceiling and stuff like that. And to me, I honestly, truly believe that so much of our mental health crisis is because people don't know how to actually step back and go, I don't think that's for me anymore, whether that's the career or the money that you make or the relationship you're in or the narcissistic parent or the friendships that are just takers, or, the roles that we play because we learn where we fit and how we're accepted, and that fear of, if I don't show up in the same way, will I be accepted? And to me, I think that there's so many people that some have an idea of, I don't think I'm living my full truth here. I think I'm swallowing down or shrinking down or even standing out to sort of hide those insecurities, that we kind of morph and change and become less or more so that we can feel the safety of fitting. And then we recognize, hang on, holy shit, I don't think I do fit. And what do we do when we feel like we don't fit?
Yeah. So that's what you call being told who you are. So you're in a job, and is it you kind of need to, you feel obligated to stay in that job, or you're in a relationship, obligated to stay in that relationship. Okay.
So that in terms of being told how, like that box fitting. So whether it's society that tells us who we are, or whether that's our family that tells us who we are, or whether that's our partners that tell us who we are, because we don't naturally, for a lot of people, we don't have that natural ability to know it. We are guided as children, and that's why I love the inner child work, because we form opinions of what we should do, what we can expect to happen, and all of that. It's such a when we're infants, so tender and so vulnerable. And so then they become our belief systems. And so we believe that if our parents told us that this is how we, you should get married and have children, but you want to travel the friggin' world like a gypsy, that push-pull of, but I was told that I should get married and have children, but my heart says I want to be a gypsy, and being able to break the shackles of those expectations, whether that's our governments, whether that's our schools, whether that's our families, whether that's, how many layers are there in society where we are told, and this year, I mean, have a look at it, when no one knows the truth, and like, this is not a political forum, but the reality is when we don't know the truth, and like, that's kind of like a mirror, when we don't know our personal truth, when we don't know how to trust our heart and our soul because our head gets in the way so much, and our head is full of being told who we are.
Yeah.
It's like wearing a mask, right?
Absolutely. And Kirsty has said here, as a female ADHD, I've been told so much who I am, who I'm not, what I should be, rather than how I can use my gifts. I feel like a burden on everyone for being too much. It's actually interesting because I think ADHD is a superpower. For me, maybe medication is required. Maybe it's not. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not a doctor. I'm not someone who can prescribe. But I work with people that have been diagnosed ADHD. As far as I can see, it's people that have a whole lot of energy. And when you put that energy to use, you can turn it into a superpower. And Kerwin Ray is a really good example.
I was just going to say, you took the words right out of my mouth. Kerwin Ray.
He inspired me. He was actually the one that inspired me. I was like, wow, this is a superpower. I've been accused of having ADHD.
But this is the thing, isn't it? That's the box.
Yeah.
Told who you are.
Totally.
You have too much energy. So therefore you don't fit this box. So you have to change, you have to morph, you have to play it down, you have to play it up, you have to play it inside, outside, whichever way to come into and fit into our box. Like, oh, fuck the box.
Totally. I mean, I'm like, put me under control, you know?
Yeah.
Jess, you know, you shouldn't be doing this. You got issues, you know. It's like, what, because I have a lot more energy, because I get frustrated by the fact that you're being a jerk, you know, like it's interesting. There's this level of, we need to control people who aren't what's this norm that we're talking about? What is that norm? Yeah. Because I never felt like I wanted to have kids, right? Never felt like I wanted to. But I'm so glad I did. I ended up having 2 kids, but I knew I didn't feel like I wanted to. But when I did have them, that changed my life. I absolutely adore my kids. I love them. But I noticed that mostly what I was doing was having kids because I felt like I should.
Yeah. All the shoulds. And this here, whoever Facebook user is, like, I love that. Oh, yes, I love this truth. Peeps often die without knowing who they are. Like, that's the ultimate sacrifice, really. It's just, there are so many people that just, go. So anyway, that was
it is. And I think this is why you do the work that you do, right? Because
yes.
You got the difference that you can make to people. Like, people will die not knowing who they really are. And there will be people that maybe come across this video and they're like, what does that even mean? I don't know who I really am. I am just who I am. No, I want you to consider that you potentially, I even consider, even now, there's parts of me that I'm not being who I really am. There's more to look at all the time. And if you don't start looking
in your own skin, like, are you, so in knowing who you are, so one of the most powerful things that came through when I was exploring this last year, this knowing who you are. When you know who you are, you know who you're not. And knowing who you're not, because the world will tell you who they think you are. And if you don't know it, then you are susceptible to believing all the bullshit that the world has got to throw at you. When you know who you are, you know who you're not. And therefore you can step towards what you need and who you need and accept what you have to, because no life is perfect and no life is easy. Like, let's just face that fact straight up. Doesn't matter how much money you've got, doesn't matter how much success you've got, how much love you've got in your life. Life is not about easy. And if it is, you're not challenging yourself. You're not actually having a crack, as far as I'm concerned, because life is meant to peak and trough and flow. And it is literally, for me, being able to help people accept when they are in that trough, when they feel down and out and they cannot see the daylight, right? That's where we learn. That's where we embrace. That's where we grow. That's where we evolve. That's where we get so pissed off with what is going on and what am I not seeing. Can you tell I've been through it? That we just go.
We've all been through it. You're just being authentic about it.
Like, just enough. Like, that's the thing. When you get to that point of enough now, and that's where we do get to actually begin to connect some dots and recognize, well, that situation happened and I made it mean this, therefore I've taken that action because I was trying to avoid this situation or walk towards that situation. And then we get to flow, and then we get to, that's where we get to juice up and celebrate. But knowing that next wave is coming to an end, and you're gonna be back to the growth and the evolve point, and it's never ending. That is living, as far as I'm concerned.
That is. Oh, you couldn't have said it better. That was a beautiful way. And sorry. I was just going to say, I did a live on my Facebook the other day, because I have definitely been challenged at times about people saying, "You're so lucky." So my family and I travelled in 2018, travelled Australia in a caravan for 8 months. It was great. And we've relocated to the sunny coast. Absolutely love my life, like, really. And the quick roundup of my story, like Jess knows, is that my first child was born with cancer and went into remission at 10 months old, and I lost my husband 3 years later. So
I've seen some dark days. It hasn't been riding the waves, but I've come full circle and have really created a life that feels really good for me. And I get challenged when people tell me I'm lucky.
I bet.
Really? Seriously. But then on the opposite side, I was like, you know, I can't look at my experiences as unlucky either. We're not lucky and we're not unlucky. We're living. It's just that simple. There is no luck and there is no, you know, lucky and unlucky. That's just life. It's meant to flow. It's meant to, you know, have good and bad and ups and downs and ins and outs, because that's a life well lived sort of thing is my take on it.
No, I definitely agree. And anyone that is commenting, I would love for you guys to engage in this in terms of, you know, I really appreciate you sharing that as well, because I was going to get into that. So you're talking about life is living is actually going through the ebbs and flows and experiencing the experience, as I would call it. Hello, Danielle and Karen. They've just jumped on. Karen says, hello, gorgeous Andrea.
Hey, Karen.
Yes. And, you know, as you just said, your son was born with cancer. So born with cancer.
Yeah. So I didn't realise that was even a thing until he was born. So he had a tumour the size of a grapefruit in his abdomen that we didn't know anything about until he was about 2 days old. Like, they knew something wasn't quite right, but yeah, we didn't know prior to birth. So my first experience, so it's interesting you say that you never thought you wanted children. That's all I ever wanted. All I wanted was to get married and have children. That was just, I didn't think of careers or travel or anything. And so it wasn't really what I kind of put on my, you know, vision board. Not that I did vision boards back then, but, you know, certainly wouldn't put child have chemotherapy for 8 months of his life on my vision board. But, you know, you don't always get what you ask for, right? So, so we went through that, which was a bit, obviously, extremely nerve-wracking and distressing, but we got through it. And my husband was definitely my rock. And I have definitely reflected on our journey together, and I know that, you know, he really was sent to me to teach me how to cope without him, and he did that through the way in which he held himself and me during our son's treatment. Like,
sorry, you go.
No, that's fine. Go.
I was going to say, the thing I wanted to share with you guys, and I'll just say hello, Rachel, and anyone else, is when I met Andrea, you said there was this, you got this instinctive feeling that you were going to lose him.
Yeah. I didn't realise. Yeah.
You didn't know at the time, but you got this instinctive feeling.
Yeah, so I had spiritualness, I guess, if that's even a word. It's not a word, but it can be today.
I call it woo curious.
That's the best. I love it. I was so woo curious. I'm going to use that forever now.
Yes.
I love it. So yes, I was woo curious. He was, however, very just soul to the earth bloke. So I probably didn't go into it, didn't get as curious as I could, because I didn't want him to think that I was crazy. But I often did say to him that I had this fear that he would die, and it was connected to the fact that his uncle had passed away as a 24-year-old, and I could feel this. I never explained it to him, but for me it was this connection between him and his uncle that I couldn't shake. That it wasn't just a family relation, and that he was sad because at 11 he lost his uncle. It was something I couldn't put words to, but I could feel it. And so I just always thought that maybe he would die as well. But he lost his life on the same intersection. And when I was notified of that, it's like it began to make sense what I'd been feeling. And that was, you know, in terms of this topic of being comfortable in your own skin, it took me years. It took me absolute years to be able to voice that they were the feelings that I had and why I had those feelings. because I just felt like that would not be accepted, that people would definitely think that I had lost my mind. But now I just know it. I just know that I knew, and I didn't know how I knew, but I just did. Now, not that that made it any easier to manage or cope with at all. It brought me no comfort knowing. It's not like it made the funeral any easier to arrange or live without him any easier, but it certainly helped me know who I was, or accept who I was, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really, again, thank you so much for sharing your story. And so your son went into remission at 10 months old, and how old is he now?
He turned 17 in September. He's a friggin' legend.
Wow. Yeah. So he's 17, and you lost your husband 3 years later. And so that was how many years ago? That was
it's just gone 14. Yeah.
That's 14 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a while ago, but still that experience after that happened, someone just said, do you believe you get what you can handle, right? So you've just gone through that with your son, and then you lose your husband shortly after.
Do you get what you handle?
Yeah.
I used to always think, I can remember before, when our son was sick. There was another family in our small town who lost their son to SIDS. And I can remember sending them a card with condolences and saying, because of the situation I was in terms of I didn't know if I would have my son still, I felt like I knew that, and I put those words there, that God doesn't give us, I didn't know if it was God or whoever it is, but, doesn't give us any more than what we can handle. And then I lost my husband, and it took me years and years and years, but finally, before we left our small town, I actually apologized to her, because I thought that was the most insensitive thing anyone could ever say to someone that just lost their baby, that you're only given what you can handle. We have no fucking choice. Like, only given what you can handle. What else am I going to do with it? Like, what else do we do with trauma and pain and suffering? I know that some people might take other options and opt out of managing and dealing with it, but the reality is, I don't know whether it's what we can handle, or it's just our journey. And some people, it's just experiences, like you said before, and some are amazing experiences, and some are horrendous experiences, and some are growing experiences, and some are shrinking experiences. But we have no choice. So whether we want to handle it or not. I had 2 little boys. Like, I had an 8-month-old baby as well when my husband passed away. So, they were. We find the reason of why and how we rise again, and sometimes we won't. Like, my worst mental health, if I'm 100% honest, was I remarried and had a 3rd child, and the anxiety, the postnatal anxiety and post-traumatic stress after that, man, that was 10 times worse than after my husband's accident. Like, things just happen, and you deal with it one way or the other, I guess.
Yeah. Or you don't deal with it, and it just, it's like, it's going to present itself how it presents itself.
And I do. I really, really strongly believe that we are given a journey, and maybe we're given more than one. I don't know about that. Maybe we are reincarnated. Like, that's probably a topic for another night. But some people's journey will be to take the worst things possible and make something from it. And some people's journey will be to take even middle-sized experiences and crash and burn. Like, our journey is our journey, and that was my thing. Like, it was never going to matter what I did. I was always going to be widowed at 27. I do believe this. Like, we can try and create this life or create that life, or be successful in this way and not avoid this. the reality is I honestly believe that our life is already planned out, and it's about it's like sliding doors, you know. Like I tied my husband, I tied my husband's tie because he was going to a funeral, ironically, when he was in his car accident. But I tied it twice. I got it wrong. He wasn't going to wear a tie. And I'm like, oh, I think you should. You know, it's a funeral. It's respectful. You should do this. And he didn't know how to do it. So I did it, stuffed it up the first time because I'm not that great at tying ties either, and got it right the second time. But, you know, sliding doors moment. You know how long I like beat myself up about that if I had to just let him walk out the door. Like, what did it matter whether he had a tie? But I was always going to tie the tie twice. There was nothing, you know, if that's, you know.
They're the things you always think about, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's, yeah, it's a bit like if my time's up tomorrow, my time's up tomorrow. Like, if this is the last call I'm meant to have, this is a bit morbid, but, you know, there's a piece, I think, in being able to recognize that life is just a journey, and we think we can control it.
I mean, I spoke about this last night when I was at Conscious Community. I spoke there last night, and my whole thing is, I don't care how morbid this is, right? If you don't want to have real talk, you should definitely not be on one of my shows. Okay, so tune out now.
Yeah.
The thing is that life presents what it presents.
Yeah.
I don't think we do get much control over what happens to us, right? I think that we have a choice in who we are going to be about it. I think we have a choice in how we respond. And I think we spend a long time, and I think it's totally human that when things happen that are unexpected and out of reach, and so like what you've experienced, I think that there's grief. I think there's absolute outrage. I think it's just like I can feel what that would have been like for you, even if you knew intuitively it was going to happen. It's like you're going through the experience of the loss, the grief, the let go, the all of that, right? I think, but what message you're sharing here is this is all life is happening right now.
It's like that.
Yeah,
like that acceptance in terms of, you know, say the topic, right, that our intention tonight, and you know, the biggest problem in the world type thing, if I come back to that being comfortable in your own skin and not being told who you are and things like that, like I shared to you before we came online, it's my 18th wedding anniversary today. I would have been married 18 years. Now, traditionally, my wedding anniversary hasn't really been that sad for me, as in they were never big when my husband was here. It was kind of just one of those things. His anniversary always was, and I did the anniversary really well this year. I was really, not that I was proud that I didn't get sad or anything, it was kind of an unusual feeling, but we honoured it beautifully at holiday apartments here on the sunny coast that we used to come to as a family. I was there with my boy.
I just want to interrupt you and just say, when you say we, you're talking about your new husband. Like your husband, I say new, but you've been married together how many years?
It's 10 years this year. Yeah,
10 years. So your current husband. So I just think this is so beautiful to acknowledge that we celebrate your ex-husband's passing and wedding anniversary. I just want to acknowledge that. So just to say that, I mean, that is very much what you're talking about, but it's living in that moment. Right. Yeah. So you said you did it well this time.
Yeah.
You share that together.
Yeah, but today it kind of it was a bit of a curveball. I wasn't expecting, like, I've been very emotional today on our wedding anniversary. It's probably the first one that I have been. And yet, in terms of what you're talking about, I'm so blessed because I actually have the opportunity and the freedom to literally experience that while being held, because my second husband held me and consoled me and let me know that it was okay. Like, there was part of me that thought, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep being sad in front of him. That's not fair, because you shouldn't do that. You should be over this by now. It's been 14 years, this, you know, who we should be in whatever situation. And when you have the safety and the security and the love and the compassion of another person to hold you in whatever you are, whether that is success and flying high and everything coming together and they're celebrating and they're like, well done, you know, you've worked hard for this, or whether you are literally crying and beside yourself because the thought of what your first husband is missing out on, in particular because your children are amazing and you're so proud of them, and you are held in that space, and don't pretend, don't push this away. There's nothing wrong with this. This is okay. I get this, Andrea. Like, this is what he says. Like, I get it. It's okay. It's fine for you to be
so
feeling
beautiful.
like this. And I just know that our ability to be okay with who we are, like, that is the epitome for me of someone who is comfortable in their own skin, who will not be told who they are, that my second husband knows who he is, that he is not threatened by my sadness, by my grief, by my first husband, by any of the things that come with me. That's what we offer when we do the work to be able to sit with ourselves.
So beautiful.
When we move closer to ourselves, we move closer to other people. It's just that it's just what happens, because we break down those barriers and we get to just feel.
It's so beautiful. It's so moving. I almost don't want to move past it, just to acknowledge the what kind of whatever your obviously your husband has worked through so that he can hold you in that. What we typically find in life is rush past it and move on, and not really. And then what we find, and we were talking about this before, is that when you really can have compassion for others is when you have, these solid boundaries, and we'll get into that in a bit. But it's like your husband cares so much about your well-being that any concern about jealousy, it's like he's dealt with it. Any concern about it, it's like it's not there. What's there is that, of course, you're a human being. You had an ex-husband. He passed away. Of course, you've got kids together.
He was never my ex-husband. We were always
sorry. Sorry. No, that's. I'm. Thank you.
I was madly in love with him when he died. That's
yeah.
So
your former husband.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, you prefer? Yeah, I didn't have language for it, I suppose. But it's like you. It's just so beautiful because you don't hear about that.
No.
It's so distinctly. It's not just that he's comfortable in his skin, it's that you are too. You're comfortable with you experience that. And even that you pick me up on that, even that you're like, no, I don't have to hide any part of this. This is so important. And that that every one of you get to share. That is a demonstration of what it's like to be comfortable in your skin. You share that.
Yeah. And I definitely know that I have been able to get comfortable in my own skin because, there's this, we shouldn't need anyone, we should do all the work on ourselves. And, there's that belief, we're told that until you're whole, you're never going to call in the right person, blah, blah, blah. Well, I can't say that, Jess. I can't. I was damaged goods. Like, I was still heartbroken and extremely distressed when I met my second husband. And the fact that they both share the same name, so my first husband was Andrew and my second husband is Andrew, that was just all types of crazy. That I think it's acceptable, and I want people to understand that it's okay to find yourself while being held safe by somebody else, that there is nothing wrong with needing that safety and that security of another person, and that love and that compassion. That doesn't take away from the journey that we can be on to find ourselves and to find out what our truth is. I often wonder, would I have been able to get to where I am today without that sort of support? And because like we've had a child together, and so that's the only biological child that he's experienced. And 2 days after, I was a freaking basket case, like totally off my face, and never once did he ever. I don't know. I think if I could clone him and sell him, I'd be making gazillions of money, really.
He certainly sounds like the kind of wife I want.
There you go. And yeah, go.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I mean, what you're describing, though, is the kind of relationship I think everyone wants. I think everyone is so sick of having to pretend to be perfect, having it all handled, not bothered by things, not triggered by things, not upset by things. And like you said, it's relative. It's like, okay, maybe you didn't have a husband who passed away. Maybe you didn't have a child that got cancer. Maybe something else was maybe what occurs to you is less trivial than that. But maybe it really impacts you. And it's okay to express that. It's okay to be you exactly where you are. And I think people are so over having to hold it up, be strong, and then be completely shamed because they are not acting the way they should.
Yeah.
Everyone wants a partner that holds them exactly where they are. And I'm so over this idea that we need to be some way to call in the right person.
Yeah, I know. And I can tell you honest, I'm not even lying about that. Like I was not, I was not fixed. Like I was not all friggin' kumbaya. Like, but I had definitely got to the stage where, because I'd been through, I had had another relationship and stuff like that. And I had got to that stage where I couldn't wait for happiness to find me, if that makes sense. Like I was definitely a person, and my husband's death amplified because I hadn't seen this pattern or trait prior. But my happiness was always outside of me. I was always, when I do this, I'll be happy. When I have that, I'll be happy. And I was extremely happy with my husband. I was very fortunate. He was a great man. And we were creating a beautiful life together. But I wasn't happy within myself. And it was really his death amplified that my solution was to just have those external experiences come and fix me and make me feel better. And I did a lot of bypassing, to be honest. In the early stages of my journey, I did a lot of bypassing. I just did things so I didn't have to think about how much of a shit show I was living through, because it just hurt so much. And it was like when I met my second husband, I had got to the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I need to just be okay in my own skin without anything out there. And it literally, like that, he turned up, which was really bizarre because I wasn't looking. And then that process continued of this, well, who am I? And the safety, I guess, he gives me is that it doesn't matter who I am. He loves me anyway. Like it just has not mattered whether I'm loud and I'm boisterous, or I'm friggin', a mess with mental health, or I'm grieving my first husband, or I'm bloody, absolutely, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether I'm 90 kilos or 49. Like, and that I do think is attributed to the fact that energetically, I was done with calling people in that wanted me to fit in a box. That energetically, I'm like, I just need to be me, and I just need to continue on the path of finding out who that is and allowing her to change and adapt and evolve. Because who I am today and who you are, Jess, we're not going to be them tomorrow. There's going to be other experiences, other people, other influences. Like that is life, adapting and changing and molding, and that feels great. I'm going to follow that, and no, it doesn't feel that good anymore. I'm going to come back over here. And I mean, we live at a buffet of life, and we just want to taste dessert. You got to eat your Brussels sprouts, man. It's good for you. They taste like shit, but go there. You know, then when you get to the goddamn, you know, figure pudding, it's gonna be like, whoo, finally I've arrived. You know, like that's what makes life taste so sweet. Is those things that have literally brought you to your knees.
It's, you know, I love that you said you got to a point, and I think you said it here too, you want to give people permission. Like you want to leave people with a sense of giving yourself permission. You don't have to wait for anyone else to come along, but that give themselves the permission to be done with being fit into a box.
Permission to, who do I want to be and what do I want from this lifetime? Because so often we live like time never runs out. Now, I don't know, maybe I'm reincarnated 100 times over. I don't really remember. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. We're never guaranteed tomorrow. And we live like all, you know, the cycles of dysfunction that keep coming up. And why does this keep happening to me? And that's the other thing, that the number one message that came through for me, and it's what I share so passionately, is as hard as it is, and it doesn't matter how much dysfunction is floating through and how many times you've lived out the same pattern, you are responsible for your happiness. Yeah. If you want to sit there and go, I can't be happy until they stop doing that to me, I can't be happy until this turns up, I can't be happy until that, I can't be happy, I'm sorry, but I'll see you again in 5 years' time. We'll go through the same stuff if you like. Because like you said earlier, it's how we choose to respond. Life is going to happen, and life is going to have people and places and things that totally challenge the shit out of us. But that's when we find out who we really are. Yeah.
I was just listening to you and I just got really moved. Like when I don't know what it is you're saying, but, you know, my body's now having a physical, like, experience too. What you're saying is so profound. And I'm noticing myself being online going, I don't want to, you know, it's funny. I'm being with you and we're talking like really real. And I'm noticing, I'm like, don't cry online. And I'm like, oh, we're talking about not being in a box. I should probably be okay with crying online.
Do you want to delve into why you're not? I'm totally kidding.
But what I'm really moved by is like, you know, oh my God. It really is that there are things even when I'm talking to you now that I'm not doing, you know, just by you being around you. It's like there are things I'm not doing because I'm afraid, I don't know, of getting hurt. You know, as soon as you jumped on, you said something about a relationship and I'm like, I don't think I've given myself permission to love again. Right? And now we're talking, I'm like, I so haven't. And I'm like wanting to hide this experience that I'm having right now, but I'm also like about being real. So I always get into a bit of a challenge with myself when this happens. But I'm really getting, I really do get just by like what's coming up is how much that part of my life, I'm just unwilling to go there. But also really getting that of course it's what I want. And I've not been done with not tolerating having been fit into a box in that area. Yeah. You know, I'm like, I feel like I've always been in a box. And yet other areas of my life, I feel completely free. As long as I don't have a relationship, I'm fully alive. You know how weird that is? Relationships are like a thing for me. So
the thing that comes through for me then is because you haven't been in the right one.
I know, and I know I haven't because I've not done what you said. I've never ever gone into been, you know, when we started talking in the beginning, where you say you want people to go, if it's not a full, and I'm going to swear, a full body fuck yes, don't do it. One of the things I have to get is I love people. Like I fall in love with people, even assholes. Like I just think I can see their potential, right? People being assholes, I should say. I can see their potential. God, what's wrong with me? I'm so emotional.
I'd seem to have this impact on people. I'm really sorry, but I love this. I absolutely love this. Like,
yeah, I'm really impacted by this. So I'm not going to stop it because it's human, right?
No,
but I'm
this is the thing. This is what we need to give permission to ourselves. It's okay for tears to flow around a topic that maybe you have put just to the side there because you're not ready to go there, and that's okay. It's okay to not go towards things. Like, this is the thing. We don't have to solve all of our stuff. We don't have to know the answers to all of our stuff.
No.
But being able to give ourselves permission, I'm not ready to go there yet. Or actually, when I think about this and I really let this integrate, there's so much fear around love for me. You know, and because that's what it is, isn't it? We don't go towards things because of the fear, because if we've been burnt before or, you know, experienced tragedy or whatnot, and if it's been reoccurring, then of course our inner critic's going to go, don't go there, girlfriend. Like, focus on everything else around you. You know, you're too busy for that. You don't need that. When actually,
I know, yeah.
I do. I need to be held. I need to be loved. I need to be seen. I need to be understood. I need the freedom.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And look, I also am aware it doesn't mean anything to cry. So if anyone is, sometimes I do cry online and people get worried about me. I'm absolutely fine. I just allow myself to fully feel what I'm feeling.
But you think that's a social construction. We've been taught that crying must be you haven't got your shit together. Actually, I
have no problem. I'm totally fine with people thinking I have no my shit together. I don't want to prove anything.
It makes them uncomfortable because they haven't yet realised that we've been told that these set of emotions means that we're not coping. So as long as you're happy, joy-filled and excited, and it doesn't matter whether you put the mask on and you're faking it, as long as it looks like you're going well, then we can feel comfortable. Oh, don't show these set of emotions because tears and all of that. It's like they're emotions. They're emotions. We're emotional beings. That's what we're meant to feel. We're just meant to feel that. So.
Yeah, and it was hard for me to express it as I was feeling through it, but I got really, really connected to how much, just as I've been talking to you, just how much I've not given myself permission to be done with that around relationships. Like, I'm just not putting myself in a fucking box anymore. Well, that's what you do, right? Yeah. This is like who you are, is giving people, you even said it. You want people to get hope.
Yeah.
You've certainly left me with that experience.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Because this is the thing. Of all the things in life that we have to enjoy, and there's plenty of them because we do still live in the lucky country, even though it's a little crazy at the moment. But the one thing that I absolutely just sets my heart on fire is when people can fully embody the feeling of love. Now, whether that's within themselves, whether that's with friendships or other people, but their safety and security of unconditional love, and to be able to drop our shields and to let go of some of those fears so that we can, like I said before, when we move closer to ourselves with that unconditional love, we move closer to others.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that about embody the full experience of love. As I was just saying, for me, I feel love so deeply for people that it's almost like, I was talking to someone about it, it's almost like I don't trust myself not to fall in love with anyone, because I feel like I could fall in love with anyone. Love is not, but so what I have been doing is I fall in love with people that aren't a fuck yes, right? They're just a potential.
So do you fall in love with the person, or do you fall in love with the feeling of love?
Yeah, it could be the feeling. Could be.
Because the feeling of love is pretty intoxicating, let's be honest.
But it's always there. I feel like it's always there. you know. Anyway, we're getting it. Yeah, you're like I'm about to go into a process. I know. I find this conversation fascinating, right? But it's there's something about it that I'm terrified of. I'm very clear to that. Like, there's something about the experience of love, because I always feel it for people, always there, all the time, right? And so I have made some pretty bad choices in terms of the people that I've dated. For me, you know, I shouldn't say, you know, they're fine. They're actually okay. We just want to match. You know, there was things that just were not matched for us. So I'm aware of that. Anyway, what I was getting back to in terms of what we're talking about is, you know, you're talking about being comfortable in your own skin. I don't feel like I have to be any other way, or like I've got it handled with relationships, or like I have to tell you that I'm fine. I don't need a relationship. I'm good. I'm working on my business right now. No, I'm actually not 100% okay with the whole relationship space. But being comfortable in my own skin means I can just acknowledge that.
That's it.
I don't need to pretend.
You don't actually I don't need to fill that void so that you don't feel that. You can just go, you know what, I'm not okay with that part of my life, and when I'm ready to go there, I'll go there.
Yeah. And in the meantime, people like yourself will just activate parts of me that will make me cry about it.
Exactly. Because it will have brought something to the forefront. It will make you get curious. I love that. What was that? What was the curious thing you gave me? I was going to take it away. What was the?
We're curious.
We're curious. That's it. Thank you. I need to write that down. I love it. But it gets you curious as to, okay, well, I do have a lot of love to give, which has led me to situations where there was lessons to learn that maybe didn't feel so good. So what is underneath that? Like, get curious about that. Okay, so why is that I will draw in and attract to these people that maybe don't connect the way that I would like that to be? We can be curious about how our patterns play out and how our beliefs lead us to situations that aren't ideal for what we want, but are clearly what the universe has decided we need. And it's that creating that space, isn't it? Like, for me, like, I recognize that a lot of the times those things, those discomforts or those agitations, we stick them to us as in that's who we are. Like, I have shitty relationships, or I'm broken in this way, or instead of just creating that space and going, this feels a bit uncomfortable, but I can go there if I want to, sort of thing. And just, I don't know. It's that fixation. And this was another thing that I talked about the other day, the fixation of how we think life should be and what it does to us when life doesn't match the fixation, instead of just being like, okay. So that's the way that relationships have worked for me then. But now moving forward, it could look like this, and that's okay. And maybe it won't, and that's okay. And just being able to take the pressure off. Yeah, needing to know.
Yeah, but also being okay. For me, it's like, imagine a world where we were okay to just go, my business is going great. I find the moment I start dating, everything falls apart. I wonder why that is. Something's going on with me in relationships. So I'm just giving them a rest for a while so I can actually get the results of my business pretty steady. Then I'll go back to dating. You know, like, I don't need to pretend, like, it's just that need. Or if it's business, you know, I'm a genius at business. So it's like people with their businesses. I'm not doing well in business. My relationship's great. I'm nailing my relationship, but I haven't quite worked out my business. I just feel like we all have something to offer each other if we get to be real about where we're at.
Yeah. And I think the reality is there's I feel like it's actually harder for society for a lot of people to accept.
Danielle, you missed a lot of this conversation.
Don't
cry.
I saw that. Don't cry. I really honestly think that it's harder for us to be comfortable when things are going right than when they're not. And so if there's something going really well in our life, that the natural shift is to find the thing that's not, so we can come back to being comfortable. Because who are we, who, like, and this has happened, you know, for me in particular, we have changed a lot in our life, and I live 3 blocks from the beach in like a beautiful paradise. I've journaled about this, and it's come to fruition. I've manifested. I have an amazing husband. But it's that constant of, well, when will the bubble burst? When is the thing, where is the thing that's going to bring it all undone? And it's sort of like we're on hyper alert. So there's that narrative that I can hear in you. I've got the business pumping. Business is great. This is awesome. Oh, relationships, not so much. To me, what I feel is there's an element of, I couldn't possibly have all of the things going and ticking, and because that's not okay. So where do I find the soft spot that will bring me unstuck? Oh, that's right, it's relationships. So instead of going, no, actually, I can have it all.
Oh, 100%. 100%. That is that narrative. I probably can hear it play over my head every day. I never verbalize it, but it plays every now and then. I go, oh, it'd be nice to go on a date. And then straight away it's like, don't do it. Yeah. Like, and it's constantly there. It's like, no, the business is no. I've even gone as far as to say, I'll give it a few years so I can fully get into sustain mode with my business. So I do. It's a narrative that constantly, it's like, that's going to have it all come undone. You know, and for some people who have a relationship, it's, if I start the business I really want, that's going to have it come undone.
Yeah. And it's all
actually,
you know, these beliefs and stuff, isn't it? And like Rachel just said, right here and is that the biggest problem in the world? And I think it is, that we don't live in the here and now. And it's very challenging to stay in the here and now. But that is where we get to fully embody and be true to who we are, is right here, right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And just coming like full circle back to what you were talking about, right? When you said, and to be in the here and the now is to be fully comfortable in your own skin, just the way you are right here, right now. No other way, nothing better than you, just here, just the way you are.
Yeah. And like it's such a hard thing to stay in the energy of, but the reality is, if you walked into the doctor's surgery tomorrow and you were told you've got a week to live, I will guarantee that the things that we worry about on a daily would disappear in an instant, and we would just focus full throttle on what was important to us in that moment. And this is what I mean. We live like we're never going to run out of time, but we are. We are going to run out of time at some stage. So trying to come back to that space of, if I had a week to live, how would I do it? Would I worry about all the people that hurt me? Would I worry about all the pain that I've been through? Or would I be just trying to cram in as much love and joy and full-hearted open conversations with the people that mean the most to me? Would I be trying to create as many memories as I possibly could and suck every bit of joy out of my day? Absolutely. But we live like we're never going to die. Well, half of us, a lot of us, aren't really living. That's the whole point. Because you don't have to be dead to not be alive. You can be living. You can be living and not really, well, you get what I mean. You can be alive.
You can have a heartbeat and you can be breathing and you'll be really living. Yeah, that's surviving.
100%. 100%. That's existing. Just go through the motions and all of that. That's like, that's to me is a really strong reflection of people that aren't comfortable. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, Andrea, thank you so much for such a beautiful, nourishing, real conversation about life. And, you know, really. For those that, hey?
It's the only way I roll, really.
I know, and this is why I connected with you, and I was like, I just love your work. I want it out there. I want what you do to be, I just want everyone to get access to it. So Andrea is a coach, a courage coach. Is that what you call yourself?
Yeah, it's, I think we all have to have a name, but basically I take inner journeys with people so that they can get comfortable in their own skin. You can call me a coach, you can call me a mentor or a guide, I don't really care. I hold space for you to be able to get to where you want to go. To me, it's all words. That's another part of that whole being comfortable in your own skin. Like, I'm not comfortable with the name coach. I'm just not. But when you come into business, you go with what people will recognize. But I literally just help guide people to themselves, to truly trust. Oh, today, Junior. Sorry. To just, I didn't get a stutter thing. To just trust. To trust in themselves, to trust in their journey, to know, like if we use tonight for an example, and not that we're going to, but, like my greatest joy would be to hold space for you, to really delve into what are you afraid of and where did it come from. You can stop being afraid and start having a beautiful business that's fully supported by your soulmate. Like, that's what lights me up, is when people can have all of those things that nourish who they are, because they are whole and they feel just that they can trust in who they are and their decisions and their choices, regardless of how many times they've crashed and burned behind them. Because do we ever really crash and burn, or are we just
exactly
living? Yeah,
exactly.
So anyway, that was a long-winded thing
on that offer.
Yes.
I'm definitely I'm inspired, moved, touched. I'm definitely there's a word from a modality I use called enrolled. I don't know if you've heard that word, but it means touched, moved, and inspired. Like, you're enrolled, it's like really in someone else's word, like really in it. It's really beautiful. And sorry, can you say that again?
I said that's a lovely reflection, so thank you.
Oh, yeah, you're so welcome. I'm sure anyone listening to this tonight, if you were Karen, Danny, Danielle, we're going for a run tomorrow, Rachel, who else have we got? Jen, Courtney, I didn't get to acknowledge all your comments. Thank you for your beautiful comments. For anyone else that I may have missed, you might be listening. What just a beautiful, nourishing conversation, Andrea. Like I said, when I first reached out to you, you're just one of my people. I just thank and honor you so much for having the courage to show up and be real, and just share all of you being comfortable in your own skin, and also just to share your journey about what happened with your son and then with your former husband, and to be able to share also that you have this beautiful husband right now that gets to hold you in all of it. Which is ultimately what everyone wants, and we just at some point believe that it's not possible. So if anyone wants to get in contact with Andrea, she does do coaching and go through these journeys where you can come back to yourself, whatever you want to call it. Please reach out to her. Please reach out to her. If you got like a link where people can get in contact with you, just put it in the links of this. Cool. That people can. And just thank you for the work you do. It's so nourishing and healing. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
I'd just love to say thank you so much for having me on and giving me the opportunity to be able to spread, I guess, my medicine and my life views and perspective, and sharing that with your community, because it does definitely. They say it takes a village to raise a child, but I think it definitely takes communities to raise the adults too. So coming together with like-minded people and being able to spread that hope is essential, really, for us to be able to. Yeah. The more people that feel safe in their skin, the more that spreads. So thank you.
Absolutely. Oh, you are so welcome. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, for your beautiful comments. If I haven't acknowledged you, I really just appreciate you for being a part of this conversation. And just would love if you would share it, because I think this is such a nourishing conversation that I would love heaps of people to hear. So thank you. Have a great night, and we will see you again later.